Okay, we're ready. Call to order the February Finance Committee meeting. Thank everybody for being here today. Where did Miss Adams go?
She'll be right back.
She'll be right back. Well,
She'll be right back.
we'll get going here. The mayor is not going to be here today, just for everybody's information. He's out of town today. We will start with the consent agenda. Are there any items anyone would want removed from the consent agenda? All right, can I get a motion to approve the balance then?
So moved.
And-
Second.
Second, thank you. Ms. Adams, we're on the consent, and any items you want removed? And I'll give you a second, take a look at it. Let me see that a minute. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. We have to do this by voice vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That is approved. We will now go to the general agenda. We have 4 items. We will begin with G1. If the city clerk will please read that.
Item G1, Economic Development Activity Report from Greater Winston-Salem.
Mr. Millett, are you going to introduce this for us?
Yes, sir, I am.
Go right ahead.
Good afternoon, Chairman Clark, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, and members of council.
Good afternoon.
As you know, one of our key economic development partners in bringing jobs, new jobs, retaining jobs, and encouraging investment in our community is Greater Winston-Salem, Inc. We have a couple of staff members here today, Mark Owens and J.T. Warren. And Mark Owens, who is President and CEO of Greater Winston, is here to give you a presentation on recent activity.
If you'll please give your name and address for the record.
Yes, sir. Mark Owens, 525 Vine Street here in Winston-Salem. Mr. Chair, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, member of council and committee, thank you so much for allowing us to be here to give you a brief update. As part of our work with you as our great partner, we'd like to bring quarterly updates this year to you to let you know what's going on and to be really transparent in our work and efforts. So I'll start by just also recognizing Ellis Kiefer, who is our Vice President of Economic Development. Ellis is out sick, so she's not here today, but she is doing a great job of leading a lot of our efforts. So we have 3 main goals as an organization that we hope to really push forward for our community as well. And that is by 2030, we want to be the top mid-sized city in the Southeast, to be a more equitable community, and to be the best place to raise a family. So we like to really measure and continue to track on how we're doing that. And we shared a little bit about that at our legislative breakfast that we had many of you attend earlier or late last week. So what have we done in 2023? Here are some of the accomplishments of industry growth. Over 408 direct jobs were announced in 2023 due to working projects here in the community, not just the city of Winston-Salem, but also in Forsyth County, which represented over $181 million in new capital investment. We just had our board meeting today, and we reported that since our inception in 2020, we are at $370 million in capital investment and 1.8 thousand new jobs in the last 4 years. So we're really excited about our job growth. Some of those companies, ProKidney, John Deere, Tex Tech, and Purple Crow, represent a variety of industry sectors. Now, while John Deere is in Kernersville and in Forsyth County and not necessarily, obviously, in the city of Winston-Salem, many of their employees will live in our community and go to our schools and utilize city services and have opportunities for our citizens to have jobs there in Kernersville at this wonderful opportunity. As well as Tex Tech is in one of our mature sections of industry growth, while Purple Crow is moving into Whitaker Park and ProKidney doing advanced headquarter R&D as well. So a really good blend of some of our major projects that we focused on in 2023. We also support our ecosystem. We have a fund that is private dollars, the Whisper Fund. $2 million have been invested into 8 startups here in our community. So we support over 70 scalable startup companies that are in the city of Winston-Salem, and we try to make sure our entrepreneurial support organizations are really helping our community members start and grow their business. But we also need to know that access to capital is really important. So we've focused on this fund and raised money. Think of Shark Tank, but with 70 sharks that are doing that investment. And we also want to make sure existing employers is really critical. Over 85% of job growth comes from existing industry. And so this past year, we had over 80 employer touch points. Those are visits of facilities, talking through really critical issues and really making sure we're focused on making the workforce opportunities and the needs that they have. So our project pipeline, what does that recruitment look like currently? We have 70 active projects. So just as a reminder, an active project is someone submits information to us. We give them a site or a building or a product that meets that, and they respond with, we got it, we're interested, we want to learn more. When we started as Greater Winston-Salem Inc., there were 12 active projects. So we are now at 70, that total over 18,000 jobs in that pipeline. In 2023 alone, we received 120 projects and had 19 of those companies on the ground in our community visiting. As you can see the funnel, we like to try to make sure we get more people to the visit stage. The more people we can have in our community to experience what it's about, we have a better chance of landing those companies. That's harder to do in a virtual world, but we're working on making sure to do that. So what are the trends we're seeing? The size of projects are growing exponentially. As you can see, 11 times the increase in project size. Bigger buildings looking for more power, more land, battery electrification, products like that are really growing. So land development continues to be an area of major focus. And how does that break down? Advanced manufacturing, that's food and beverage is broken out. So anything that's not food and beverage that is advanced manufacturing continues to be what we're about as a community, and we have the great, strong workforce to do that. But as our Mayor Pro Tem said last Friday, the world of work is changing, and we got to let our next generation and our workforce know that these job opportunities are available, and how do we make sure everybody's trained, ready to go, and have all the skills to enter into this new world. I do want to point out healthcare and life science. This is at the end of last year, was 2%. As of this morning, we had 2 more projects added to that. We have 6 projects in that, so it changes the percentage. But healthcare and life science is a growing area. You had 8 projects announced last year alone in the biotech, life science, and innovation quarter. Now, they may be 2 to 5 jobs right now, but they may be that next big company that continues to grow. So it's important to have a blend of those types of products. And then 3 times the increase in quarterly intake. So every quarter now we're bringing in about 29 new project companies. And so that intake has gone up and is staying strong. That means our marketing efforts, interest in the city of Winston-Salem is really strong, and people know about our great community. We like to say in our video, it's not a secret anymore that Winston-Salem is a great place to live and do business, and that message is getting out to the world. And speaking of to the world, 43% of our projects are international companies. For example, we will be looking to get on your schedule here soon for a company out of South Africa that's looking to locate a production facility here in the city of Winston-Salem. So foreign direct investment continues to be a really strong component of what we're looking for going forward. So just again, sites, product is really important. Existing buildings and sites. So 44% of our projects prefer existing building. Sites and companies that want to talk about lease versus purchase continue to change in different direction. But what we're seeing is companies are looking for bigger gaps in bigger product. So we're seeing a little bit of focus that we need to focus on of sites larger than 150 acres, because companies are wanting buildings more than 200,000 square feet, or they may want one under 80,000 square feet. A year and a half ago, between 100 and 150,000 square feet was the sweet spot. So now we're either way above that or below, and finding available land in our community is not super easy to do. So we're working with our great partners in the planning and zoning department and the utility department to really focus on product development. And that's one of our major focuses for this year. So each quarter, you're going to hear from us on what the trends are, what products are and projects are moving forward. But retention of companies, recruitment of new ones, focus on our ecosystem, and again, a major focus on product development. I want to recognize and thank Ken Millett as well as Aaron King and their teams. We sit together every month and talk. We bring in the county as well and the utility partners, and we talk about what's going on in our community. What do we need to do to prepare, to invest, and be ready for that, whether that's sewer infrastructure, road improvements, traffic studies. What do we need to do to stay ahead of that curve? Because when these companies find a site that they're interested in, they want to go really fast. They want to be up and running, and it's a really great case study. Ardall company developed by Front Street Capital, Coleman team and his team who are here today. That company went from requesting a plan to a CO in 16 months. And in other states, it takes 16 months to get the permit, and they were up and operational, and that's because of the great staff work that's done. So we are really thankful to have this partnership. Economic development, economic investment grows jobs, it creates economic equity and opportunities, and it increases the tax base so you as our elected leaders can invest that money wisely into the citizens of our community. So we're really thankful for that partnership and happy to answer any questions, Mr. Chair.
Any questions or comments? Mark, thank you for being here. Y'all do a great job, and I'm glad to hear that our staff is working with you. And if there's anything any council members or the mayor can do for you, please call us.
Thank you. We appreciate you very much.
Thank you very much. We will now go to G2. If City Clerk will please read that.
Item G2, resolution rescinding the original resolution to sell property to Pace of the Triad, affirming the termination of the original agreement and authorizing the sale of certain city-owned land, Northeast Ward.
Mr. Millett, you're back.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon again, everyone.
Can you introduce this to us?
Certainly. You may recall that in August of 2022, City Council approved the sale of approximately 5 acres at Motor Road and Old Walkertown Road to Pace of the Triad for a day health center serving those aged 55 and over who may need medical care and support in order to continue living at home. Based on that public purpose, the sales price was discounted to $100,000. However, restrictions and a reversionary clause made it difficult for Pace to obtain financing, so that agreement was ultimately terminated. The city later agreed to sell an adjacent 18.5 acres to a developer who intends to build 216 affordable housing units. That developer is willing to consider purchasing the 5 acres that was originally intended for Pace, but that property would not be developed until after December of 2026. The council member of the ward remains in support of the sale to Pace in order to complement the planned affordable housing units on the adjacent site. The attached resolution, as Chairman Clark read, is kind of long. So it accomplishes 3 things. 1, it rescinds the original resolution. 2, affirms the termination of the original purchase agreement. And 3, authorizes the sale of the subject property to Pace via the upset bid procedure. The proposed sale price of $250,000 is discounted from the appraised value of almost $331,000 due to the anticipated impact on the fair market value created by the conditions that would be placed on the property. Those conditions include requiring the purchaser to be a nonprofit entity with a history of carrying out day health programs for the elderly, requiring consistent use of the property for at least 20 years, and prohibiting certain uses incompatible with the surrounding area. Because that new agreement would not include a reversionary clause, the city would have to file a lawsuit to enforce compliance in the event of default. The agreement also requires that Pace begin construction within 2 years of closing and that it must be completed by a date to be determined. Pace would also need to have the property rezoned in order for its intended purpose. As with the original approval, staff recommends that the proceeds from the sale be deposited into the Economic Development Project Fund for future site and infrastructure development at the Old Walkertown Road, at the Motor Road, Old Walkertown Road site. And she may have sneaked in, but Ursula Robinson, who's executive director with Pace, was planning to be here. And she is here should the committee have any questions.
Questions, comments? So the purchase price is $250,000, subject to upset bid, and there's no reversionary clause.
Correct.
But there are certain restrictions as far as use of the land.
Correct.
Okay. Oh, excuse me, Ms. Burke. Oh, Ms. Carmen.
Yes, good afternoon, Chairman Clark, committee members and council members. Just wanted to point out that the statute under which this sale will occur does not necessarily require the reversionary clause, but it does require that we go up through the upset bid procedure, and we're going to use a session law the council obtained in 2009 to put conditions on the property. But the prior authority that was used required the reversionary clause.
Okay. Any comments? Go right ahead, please.
I'm sorry, I'll be brief because I'm choking. I am in support of this purchase to sell this property to Pace for the very same reasons that I stated back in August. I think that this would be a great public purpose opportunity at this location. So I'm in support of it. Thank you.
Can I get a motion?
Move for approval.
You have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second on G2. Are we going to do this with the computer?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Ken. Don't go far. We may need you.
Okay.
And that is approved. Thank you very much. We will now go to G3. If the city clerk will please read this one.
Item G3, resolution accepting a directed state grant of $35 million for the Midtown Economic Development Project and authorizing agreements with the state of North Carolina and Carter USA Front Street Capital.
Ben, will you please introduce this? And this is a little more complicated, so you may have whatever minutes you need.
Okay. Good afternoon, Chairman Clark, Mayor Pro Tempore Adams, and members of City Council. First of all, I do want to recognize our guest today, John Curry, Wake Forest Athletics Director, and Coleman team with Front Street Capital. You'll hear from Coleman here in just a moment to provide you an overview of what we really consider to be a transformative project for the community. So last spring, city and Wake Forest University officials sought assistance from the state for what is called the Midtown Economic Development Project. The Midtown Economic Development Project basically is an area that runs from Reynolds Boulevard south to Coliseum Drive and encompasses Wake Forest's athletic venues as well as the Winston-Salem Fairgrounds. This project would support economic development activities in that area and also would solidify Winston-Salem as a tourism and sports and entertainment district, both for the Piedmont and for Northwest North Carolina. So we're very excited about that. There's 750,000 patrons that attend events in this district, if you will, and that represents about 260 event days. So the state did include in their 23-24 budget a $35 million directed state grant from the Regional Economic Development Reserve for this project to help with mainly developing the infrastructure needed to support the development. The city will be the recipient of the grant funds, and we will essentially serve as a pass-through of those funds to the development team, which is Carter USA Front Street Capital. Again, I will recognize Coleman here in a moment to give you an overview of how those funds will be utilized. So the item before you this afternoon has two parts. There's a resolution and there's a budget amendment. The resolution has three actions in it. One is for you all to formally accept the $35 million directed state grant from the state. The second action is to authorize an agreement with the state of North Carolina for us to receive the funds and then to utilize them. And then finally, authorizing a subrecipient agreement between the city and Carter USA Front Street Capital for us to then be able to disperse those funds to them for them to utilize for the development of the project. And then, of course, then the budget amendment is to appropriate the $35 million so we can actually write the check and do that. So with that, I'm going to recognize Coleman team will give you an overview of the project and talk about how the funds will be specifically utilized.
Coleman, if you please give your name and address for the record.
Yes, Coleman team, 450 North Patterson Avenue.
Thank you, sir.
Chairman Clark and Mayor Pro Tem Adams and the rest of the council, it's exciting to come here today. I'll be honest, I walked in here, usually I'm standing here requesting money. This is the first time I've ever been standing here actually talking about giving you money, so this is a different day here. As Ben mentioned, the funds, what we're talking about today is really the receipt of these funds. We're going to be having some negotiations between now and then, really just coordination with the city staff on exactly the projects that these funds are going towards. The projects that they're going towards are really going to be built around three kind of key areas. The first one is promoting connections. Promoting connections is really internal to this site. If you look at the map, you'll notice we're pushing nearly 100 acres of redevelopment here, bounding University Parkway to the west, Reynolds Boulevard to the north, really Goodwill to the south, and then the fairgrounds and the football stadium to the east. So this is a significant amount of property that requires a deep amount of infrastructure to promote how we're going to get around that property within it, and then how are we going to connect to the neighborhoods around that. The second piece is supporting city growth. As Ben mentioned, this is an area that already attracts a significant amount of people to this area. So how are we going to build on the events, the entertainment, the activity that's already here? How do we promote the fairgrounds? How do we lift up the engagement that's already happening here and create this as a destination? As Ben mentioned, this is a transformative opportunity to establish this part of Winston-Salem as a destination going forward. And the last piece would be creating a dynamic community. You can't just go somewhere and plop down some retail and expect it to be dynamic and engaging and really lift the community up. You've got to get the infrastructure in place to support establishing a place people are going to want to go dine and shop and eat and live and come to stay for concerts and stay in hotel rooms. So again, thanks to Wake Forest leadership and the city's leadership for these dollars that we have worked with to receive from the state. Those dollars will be going from the state to the city, and then we will be submitting for those on a project by project basis, where Carter Front Street will be actually receiving those funds and then paying for the implementation of that. So we're going to walk through a little bit of these projects to give you an idea of the true public infrastructure related projects that this money is going to be going towards. This infrastructure, again, supports, what it does is it creates the foundation for this development. If you've ever been here, currently right now is a lot of vacant parking lots. A significant amount of work needs to be done, not just to understand what can we do next year. This is a decades-long project that is going to be multi-phased. So in order to do this the right way, we have to put the infrastructure in place that allows us to develop what we're going to be doing for over the next 3 to 5 years, but also over the next 20 years, understand how do we do it the right way up front to allow for that future growth. So right now you see the existing conditions as it currently sits, with Deacon Boulevard and Beatty Street really being the heart and the core of that project. The first project we'll talk about as it relates to kind of, we call it reshaping the urban fabric of what this project is a little bit of a street grid alignment. That new white road that you see right there is a proposed realignment of Deacon Boulevard. We do that for a couple reasons. One is if you've ever tried to walk across Deacon Boulevard, it is a 4-lane, very unpedestrian friendly road where the goal is to take that from 4 lanes to 2 lanes in the heart of the project and turn it into really a pedestrian thoroughfare that cars will also be able to travel on during the week. We will also be abandoning part of Beatty Street past the Courtyard Marriott. What that does, along with Deacon Boulevard moving, is it allows us to create larger parcels for future development. We can now shield the back end of the Coliseum and create a development parcel in between the Coliseum and Deacon Boulevard. That's really the heart of where we're going with the current street grid alignment. The next piece, which you'll see a few different times here, is we're proposing to extend Whitaker Park across Silas Creek. So the middle part of the project you see in the green there is Silas Creek. We're going to be building a bridge that will bring...
You mean Silas Creek, not the Silas Creek Parkway?
Silas Creek as in the actual tributary.
Water.
The water. Currently, it's a rutted out stream, but we'll get to that in a second. We're proposing building a bridge over Silas Creek that will connect Whitaker Park to Deacon Boulevard. That bridge will also have 2 pedestrian sidewalks that go across it as well. The next thing to really talk about along with that infrastructure is we're going to be moving a lot of the utilities that you see here, both underground utilities and then also all the power poles you see above the ground. We're going to be taking all that power underground. So all you'll see are the street lights like you see in a lot of these mixed use and master planned neighborhoods. The next piece here is the creation of a little bit of additional parking. This parking is for a couple of reasons. One is anytime you have future development, you start taking some of the parking away. But some of this is also, we're going to be putting it in the heart where we're creating a future retail village in that yellow middle box will be a future retail village. So having parking there not only accommodates larger events, but also accommodates the potential 40,000+ square feet of retail we intend to build in the middle of the project. Also part of this, those yellow squares represent grading. As we close off Beatty Street and we realign Deacon Boulevard, we will be doing the grading necessary to allow this retail to be attracted here. We are quite literally building the beachfront here. It's a little bit harder to attract a new retailer, a new restaurant, or a dining establishment to come here when there's really nothing around here. So we're doing everything we can to create a development-friendly site here for future infrastructure. This is the one where I'm probably most excited about. Again, the goal here is to not just put down some retail or some hospitality, but how do you tie the community in to this project? How does this project go from being somewhere where a few different groups of people can come to something that is truly of the community, that all the communities that are around here, and we'll get into each one of those, can come and enjoy this future project? I will start you in the upper left-hand corner. That is a future new crossing to get pedestrians safely across University Parkway, also in a convenient manner. Just to the west of University Parkway is where we're going to start what we are currently calling the High Line or the Urban Loop, where that will be a new pedestrian greenway. So think 15 feet wide, elevated in some areas, pedestrian greenway that will start at University Parkway, wind along Silas Creek. It will come through the new retail village, and eventually the goal with phase 2 would be to have it travel where all the blue lines are going. The goal here is to have direct connectivity to Wake Forest University to the west, to Boston Thurman to the south, to the new senior services development and all the neighborhoods to the east, and then obviously Whitaker Park to the north. The city and the county have put a lot of investment into Whitaker Park. How do we continue to spur economic development there and get that community down into this project as well? It's also easier to go receive additional dollars for further greenway once you've given a proof of concept for phase 1. So the goal here is to get phase 1 done and then go ask for additional dollars, both state and federal, to continue this greenway around. A big piece of this is the renovation of actual Silas Creek. If you ever put some boots on and go walk down there, you'll notice it is a very rutted out ravine right now. So reinvesting dollars there to create essentially a stormwater park. So this will go from being a fenced off ravine to an actual community amenity where people will be able to walk along and experience the renovated Silas Creek. We'll also be creating some outdoor plaza spaces that you can see in the heart right there. Central green spaces here and central public plazas here. So again, if you're not coming here to eat a cheeseburger, you can come here with your kids and ride a bike and walk and engage in this project, even if you're not spending any time here for a major event or anything else. The next piece is site access. We've been working with local DOT and NCDOT to understand how do we take a look at what happens here on a major event day, and then obviously on a rainy Tuesday in February, how do we get a mom with 3 kids to come here in a very easy manner to park and to go experience the retail. So improving upon all the roadways into and out of this project. You've got 32nd Street that we're going to be renovating and really extending out here to Shore Fair to add another potential exit here. We're going to be renovating Whitaker Park from Reynolds Boulevard all the way down, again, across that creek there into the middle of the project. We're going to be, again, there's Deacon Boulevard here, and then the potential exit here out to extend 32nd to University Parkway. So site access to this is going to be fairly critical, both on a day where you're just going there to shop and dine or on a major event. This hopefully will come into resolution. If not, you have it in your packet. This is simply a color-coded accumulation of all the slides that we just walked through that really highlight some of these targeted areas so you can see it all on one page. Oh, there you go. Red being, again, the Deacon Boulevard, utilities, Beatty Street core here. Green being the Silas Creek renovation and the public amenity through the Greenway. Orange being 32nd Street extensions. So that's a quick overview. Again, as been mentioned, the goal today is to vote on receiving of this $35 million and allow us to continue to work with city staff to hone in on these projects. The goal of these projects is to provide that catalytic moment that allows future development to come. We expect that future development, again, all the acreage we're talking about here is 100% owned by Wake Forest. We're not acquiring any additional property, and it is all currently untaxable. So imagine 5 years from now, upwards of $500 million in new taxable development on a currently untaxable parcel of property made possible by the $35 million grant from the state. This is as dynamic of a public project that I've seen in my career here. It is certainly something that we're very excited to have in the North Ward and see it come to fruition over the next 5, 10, and 20 years. So happy to answer any questions about these projects specifically or the logistics behind the money or really anything.
Any questions from any of the council members? Thank you. Jeff,
Comments or questions?
whatever you want to do, sir.
Just, we talked about this. I'm so excited. This part of town, when I graduated Wake in 1980, was where things were happening. When Whitaker Park shut down, it just like it pulled the curtain on this part of town. This level of economic investment, I think, will just bring back a vitality that we've been missing, fill a hole, fill a gap in the community. And it really does sit at a central point between lots of different neighborhoods.
Yep.
So the opportunity to have cross-cultural goings on is fantastic. Concerns that we talked about, impact on staff during the development of this, ongoing maintenance of some of the trailways. There's got to be enough tax revenue thrown off for us to be able to absorb that additional maintenance side of it. But I mean, in all, it's an incredible project. I'm so looking forward to this taking place.
Yeah, the creation of these projects is one thing, but the ongoing maintenance to keep them of that level is another thing. So obviously there will be tax revenue thrown off of this project, but also we anticipate it to be treated not dissimilar to Innovation Quarter, where if you're a tenant in the Innovation Quarter, you pay a park charge that goes towards the amenities within the property, meaning major events, security, landscaping, all the things that continue to make these mixed-use areas nice and very well maintained for the future. So we anticipate there being a pretty deep public-private partnership on the actual maintenance going forward.
And can you explain what the Carter USA Group, and I think they're out of Atlanta,
Sure.
What's their job?
Carter and Front Street are true 50-50 joint venture partners on this project. My counterpart there is born and raised here in Winston-Salem. His family still lives off Reynolda Road. The chairman of that company and founder was born here in Winston-Salem. They have a lot of very deep ties to Wake Forest and the Winston-Salem community. They're up here probably 2 days a week right now. We're coming back with some of their engineering staff to meet with the city next week to start talking about how we're actually going to implement all this infrastructure. So they are deeply involved in this, and again, they'll be here tomorrow.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Adams.
Yes. First of all, I want to thank the council, the mayor, and our delegation in Raleigh for having the forthright to go ahead and commit to this long overdue project. When I came on the council, as Jeff said, in the 80s, he remembers when it was booming. I remember when it was booming when I worked at Whitaker Park as a tour guide in the 70s. The north side of town was where the happenings were. If you didn't do anything but drive to Whitaker Park and sit and look at the lights at the water, the clubs, Beatty Street, the whole deal, up and down Deacon Boulevard, and it went away. When Whitaker Park went black, the restaurants, the commercials, the businesses, everything went away. And it's only in the past probably, 20 years, we have industry, commercial, all of these things coming back to the North Ward. Again, I am looking so forward to this because Dr. Hatch was the president when I got on the council, and John knows about it. You do too, Coleman. I told him tear them buildings down because they were boarded up restaurants. They were just boarded up, blighted buildings, and I understood that Wake had to get a plan together, but I told him my community was getting very impatient, and they did that, and then a year or so ago, we had to demo some others, but with Whitaker Park and all of this habitat, the food bank, senior services, the new industry that's coming, that's over there now. I've always said we needed a bridge, John, from this campus over to the other side. It's 6 lanes of traffic, if not more, on University Parkway from the time you hit it downtown until you make that turn off of Cherry Street and University. But again, Coleman, I'm excited. I look forward to working with you and staff. I know they're excited because this is another level of creativeness within the city since the Innovation Quarter. So I'm excited. Thank you.
Ms. Scipio?
Yes, just want to make sure I understand this completely and others in the community. This is a grant from the state
That's right.
that is going to an entity, a developer.
Yep.
The city is just the pass-through agent, and we will not be putting any funds into this initiative at this time. Is that right?
That is correct. Wake Forest and the city went to the state to petition for the dollars. These are dollars that are coming from the state to the city. They'll be passing through the city to us on behalf of Wake Forest on a project-by-project, month-by-month basis, where we hit all the benchmarks, both financial and project level, that comply with the state regulation, and then until we exhaust the funds, and there is no anticipated request right now from the city.
Great. I just wanted to make that clear. And as we look to the future, how much staff time is going to be involved in this? Because I always hear that with these kinds of projects, we don't have adequate staff to do the work that's required. So do we have an increase in staff time for this project or not?
So, Councilmember Scipio, I mean, I think that, management's going to be involved. I mean, as a pass-through entity, our main responsibility is going to be reporting back to the state how the funds are being utilized. So I don't anticipate it being, a heavy lift from that standpoint. Certainly, the meetings we're going to have early on to talk about infrastructure, right-of-way, that type of thing.
And my last comment is that there's going to be so much activity and such a new vision and so many exciting things coming to this particular area that I believe we as a city need to look at our fairgrounds and the annex and see what we must do to upgrade what we have or create something new to complement all of the activity that's coming to that area. And I will put my plug in that we really need to look at the annex and hockey.
I would give you a round of applause if I could. No, we've started working with Robert and his staff and understanding what the future of the fairgrounds, and that's obviously a big part of this project, just being a neighbor and how do we positively impact that area as well.
Mr. McIntosh, oh, excuse me, Ms. Scipio, you finished?
Yeah, I am.
Ms.
I just
McIntosh.
want to add one thing to what Councilmember Scipio was saying. This money coming through is for infrastructure work only. This will not be spent on any buildings and for-profit stuff.
Correct.
This is all just for roads, bridges, sidewalks.
It simply allows us to come in and create future development.
Yeah.
Yep. Other than bridges. It's
Mr.
only
Chair.
actual physical construction.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to make a motion to pass this resolution,
Thank you. Is
please.
there a second?
Second.
And let me remind everybody, this is a three-part motion. One, to accept
Right.
the money, to direct staff to sign an agreement with the state to do that, and then to sign an agreement with Carter USA and Front Street to do the engineering work and things of that sort.
Right.
So we have a motion, and a
budget amendment.
second for the committee. If everybody please vote when it comes up, and I am already, hang on a minute. There we go. If everybody please vote.
Thank
And
you
I would
all
like
for your
to-
time.
Thank you. So I would like to say, first off, thank our representatives in Raleigh and Mr. City Manager. I think we ought to send
A letter.
to, we got support from both sides of the aisle on this. I appreciate it very much. If I mention some names, I may leave some out, but thank you very much.
do that.
I want to thank Ms. Adams for having some vision here, and to thank Wake Forest for hearing that vision. And I think this is a game changer. I do remember when I used to eat lunch at Simos and Bell Brothers, and there was a lot of energy. But as you say, when Whitaker Park went dark, a lot of other things went dark. But Whitaker Park's coming back to life, and this area's coming back to life, and we got a great football and basketball programs now, so we got a lot of people over there. And last comment, Ms. Scipio, I think you've hit a nail on the head too with the fairgrounds. We probably ought to look at doing more than just having the Carolina Classic Fair there for 10 days a year, but I will leave that up for future folks to look at. But I just think this is a game changer, and I thank the committee for passing it, and we'll be voting on it next Monday night. Okay, we will now go to G4.
Item G4, resolution authorizing the purchase of property located at 635 and 639 Burton Street in support of the city's effort around permanent, supportive, and affordable housing, North Ward.
And I believe this was introduced at the previous month for information, as we oftentimes do, and now we're going to vote on it. Thank you. Please present it.
Good evening, Chair Clark, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, members of the committee and the council. The resolution before you is to authorize the purchase of the property located at 635 and 639 Burton Street. The property consists of 2 multifamily apartments with a total of 10 two-bedroom residential units. The units will be used for permanent supportive housing for families. The property is currently vacant, so we will not be displacing any families at this point. An item will be brought to you in the future after this purchase is approved, be brought to you to make a recommendation for the property to be sold to an agency that has the experience and the capacity to manage the property and provide supportive services. The property appraised at $766,000, and we're asking to purchase it for $773,500.
Any other questions or comments? This was discussed yesterday at General Government, Mr. McIntosh.
So I just want to make sure that this is part of the process of just us purchasing this and either reselling it or releasing it to somebody else to operate.
Yes, that is the goal. The goal is to resell it to an agency that has the experience and the capacity to manage the property and also provide wraparound services.
Thank you. Can I get a motion, please?
Move for approval.
We have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second on, I think this is G4.
Yes.
Everybody, please vote when it comes up. And that is approved. Should be 3-1. Thank you all very much. Anything else to bring before the committee? Well, I'd like to say, unlike other committees this week, we have adjourned on time.
Yeah, we were on time.
I don't know what it's saying.
What's on time?
Miss Adams.